Okay, this is basically on White with Naruto. This will be what will take you with Reincarnation of Naruto and Sasuke. When last part left off, we were finishing the USJ attack, where Deku and Anomu strike each other down. Deku with his incomplete Rasen Shuriken, and Anomu a good clean shot to the head. After the Rasen Shuriken done, you can basically see barely bits and pieces of the Anomu. Mostly more like a skeleton with a bit of the meat on top of the bone. After seeing that, Shigaraki gets pissed and looks at the boy who did it and tries to rush it at him. But before he even do that, All Might breaks down the door, telling them that I'm here, and sees that someone's rushing after one of his injured students. He basically did punch Shigaraki, but he didn't punch him hard enough to knock him out, just enough to push him back. And before Shigaraki could do anything else, Kurogiri basically tells them that we have to go. After saying this, he hands Deku off to the other students. Once All Might looks in their direction, Kurogiri begins to teleport them both away. After doing that, All Might decides to just deal with the rest of the villains that's inside the plaza. While All Might begins to deal with the villains, two people, one from 1B and 1A, begins to help with Deku's injuries. One being Momo, the other one being the girl with vines for hair. Begins to tighten it around Deku's head. Now, if you guys are wondering, yes, Naruto is healing him, but barely. Mostly because they want to keep this a secret as far as they can. But until then, basically barely heal him, or at least do it in secret. Once All Might done with the villain that's in front of the stairs, he begins to see something begin to grow. Now, if you guys are wondering, didn't Deku destroy the Nomu from USJ? Well, the answer is no, it didn't, since his Rasen Shuriken is not complete. But it did put it almost close to being destroyed, and also dampen the healing factor because of the Rasen Shuriken attacking on the cellular level. In fact, that the Nomu does have a chakra path, just very warped and messed up chakra path. It can still somewhat regenerate, but not as capable as it was. In other words, weakening its healing factor. Now, if you guys are wondering how badly is it damaged, well, basically, it barely got to the muscle, and it only took it 5 minutes to regenerate that, and it barely healed the hand. Basically, you just see muscle just pulsing on the ground. When All Might sees it, he walks up to it and looks back at Izuna. He begins to wonder, what did he do to this person? They all basically looks at All Might and tells them that was a monster. And they begin to describe what the new moon looked like and how it acted. And basically, Todoroki comes around and tells them that thing was supposed to kill you. All Might wonder what he means by that, but he decides to tell them to take the wounded up to the stairs and begins to go to each plaza to deal with the villains. A few more minutes have passed and all the heroes and police are here. He begins to take Aizawa, 13, and Deku into the ambulance. While on their way to the hospital, we jump into Deku's mind. Deku begins to ask him what was that abomination. Sasuke tells him it's definitely years of experimenting. Naruto tells him, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind somebody has been experimenting on something. But that thing nearly killed him. Naruto looks at Sasuke and Deku and tells them, once we get outside, we need to find a new location so we can at least train and at least go all out. Sasuke tells him, speaking of training, we need to focus on other stuff besides jutsu, including taijutsu, genjutsu, and we need to focus on sealing too. And since we're on the topic of sealing, we might as well try to recreate some seals from our past lives. Naruto tells him, yeah, we should probably put some gravity seals on us, so we can use that for training, like how Rock Lee used to. And also some seals that can probably cut off someone's chakra. Deku tells him, that's great, we can do that once we're out of the hospital, and we find a new location to train. For Deku, 2 days have passed before he finally wakes up. Recovery Girl looks at him and tells him, oh, you're awake. Well, 2 classes have been worried about you, and I'm mostly surprised that you're not in a coma, or at least dead. Deku tells her, well, luckily I'm not dead either. Before Deku can move, she basically asks him, are you okay? No blurred vision? You think you can walk? Deku looks at her, tells her everything's fine, and I think I can. Once Deku says that, he begins to move the cover off of him and begins to stand up. After Deku stands up for a few seconds, he begins to look around until he sees his phone. Once he picks it up, he basically sees that there are multiple numbers calling him and says that he missed multiple texts, wondering who they belong to. Deku looks at the time on his phone and is confused. He basically puts it down and goes to the window, begins to open the curtain, seeing that it's nighttime. Deku looks around and basically asks, do I have to stay here until the morning, or am I have to walk home by myself? The nurse tells him, well, once I've done one more checkup on you, one of the teachers will take you home. Deku basically looks at her and asks, so how many people basically came to visit me? She looks at him and tells her, no one. We have to do surgery to close up that head of yours. She basically looks at Deku, tells him, your healing factor is really good. He looks at her confused, but in his head, he's mostly sweating. Deku looks at her and asks, what do you mean by healing factor? The nurse just tells him, some of the classmates from 1A and 1B saw your injury and thought that you were dead. When the students have to report to the teachers and the police, basically describing your injury almost like your head got caved in. She basically pulls out an x-ray of Izuku's head, basically telling him, well, it's not as bad as the student described it, but when I came to look at certain injuries, they still look at least somewhat life-threatening. Deku tells her, alright, but how does that explain me having a healing factor? She basically tells him, this is the x-ray while we were doing surgery on you. And she basically pulls out another one, and it looked a lot worse, saying, this is the x-ray of you when we just got in, or rather yet. Deku pauses for a few seconds and realizes that he has to probably tell the teachers that he has a healing factor. He sighs and basically gets dressed and walks out the nurse's office. Once he basically walks out, he sees Aizawa basically waiting for him. Aizawa tells him, you're good? Deku tells him, yeah. While they're walking, Deku basically looks at him, tells him, I got a crazy healing factor. Aizawa glances at him while they're walking and basically asks, how good is it? Deku tells him, as long as the limb is still attached to my body, I can probably heal it. Aizawa tells him, alright, it's good to know, but I need to know, what was that attack you used on Nomu? Deku looks at him and tells him, well, did you see my exams to get into the school? Aizawa tells him, yeah. You see that same attack I used on that giant robot? It's the exact same attack, but with sharp wind. Deku looks at him and tells him, if you're wondering, no, it is not completed. It's somewhere around at least 50 or 25%. If you're wondering, I'm only going to use it on the normal thing when I make more. Aizawa looks at him and tells him, how do you know you're going to make more? Deku tells him the way that thing looked and how it was acting. It didn't act like a normal villain. And the commands that it was given, it was more like an attack dog that was barely put together. It can barely think for itself, so they're going to make more. Aizawa tells him, well, until then, we'll keep practicing. Speaking of practicing, we're going to have like 2 weeks off because there's going to be a sports festival afterwards. Once they're done with the conversation, Aizawa drops him off at his apartment. After that, we cut to the next day. Deku opens the door to his classmates just standing around talking to each other. Some of them stop talking and basically see who's at the door. And once they see that Deku, they basically call him out and everybody else comes over, basically asking him questions. The questions they'll be asking is, how's your head? Are you okay? And what was that attack? Deku tells them, I'm fine. I don't know what they did. All I know is that they just fixed me up. And as for that attack, don't worry about it. It's still incomplete, so yeah. Bakugo and Todoroki wants to know, that thing that nearly destroyed that creature, that move that engulfed that creature and nearly destroyed it, is incomplete. How far is it from being finished? They would want to know, but they're not going to straight up ask him. Bakugo basically wants to know, so basically he goes up to him and basically asks, Imo, what's up with that attack that you threw at that monstrosity? Deku tells him it's incomplete. Why do you want to know? Bakugo stomps up and tells him, what was that attack for, and how come you didn't use it during our match? Deku looks at him dead in the eyes, and looks around the room for a few seconds. Once he's done looking around, he looks at the wall that leads towards the door, and begins to count his fingers. Bakugo about to say something until Aizawa walks in and tells everyone to sit down. Aizawa tells him, before we begin class, does anyone have any questions? Uraka raises her hand, and he calls upon her. She tells it's mostly about Izuna during the entrance exams and the USJ attack. Aizawa tells her, go on. She wants to ask, between that big ball that's used to destroy the 0-point robot and that weird attack that you used up against that Nomu thing, which one's stronger? Everyone looks around. It is mostly wondering which one is stronger. Before Izuna can answer, Tokiyami comes around and asks, do those attackers of yours, do they have names or not? Deku tells her, I'm not going to explain how my attack worked. I'm going to tell you is the name of them and a warning about it. The one I used during the USJ is called the Wind Style Rasen Shuriken. And if you ever see me use this attack, you better get out the way because the splash damage is crazy. Everyone agrees that if they ever see him use that attack, they're gonna basically jump out the way. Aizawa will also be thinking the same thing, especially how that attack affected the Nomu. After getting out the way, Aizawa tells him about the sports festival. Someone complained about if Village attack. Aizawa will tell him that there were multiple heroes there. After telling them that, they calm down. After that, a few minutes have passed, and it's almost lunchtime. Before they leave, they see other classes basically huddling around their door. Some of them see from 1B. And once they see some of them, they begin to ask, like, how's it going and how's Izuku? They begin to talk and tells them that the other classes declare war on both of us. Bakio tells them whatever, they're extras anyway, and begins to push them out of the way. Once that's done, we basically cut to the end of the day, where before they leave, Deku felt someone tapping on his shoulder. He turns around and he sees Momo and Uraraka, basically looking at them, asking him what's going on. Momo begins to tell him, did you forget what you told us at lunchtime? Deku tells him, you talking about me training you? I thought you wouldn't want to, since the sports festival. Momo tells him that is true, but it is to better learn from your enemies. After she says that, she gives him a smile. Uraraka chimes in and tells him, besides, you promised us to train anyway. After hearing that, Deku shrugs his shoulder and tells her, alright, what do y'all want to train? Momo tells him, I have enough space in my house, if it's okay with you. Aizuno looks at Uraraka and shakes her head. Deku tells her, alright, let's begin. Before they leave school grounds, Momo tells them, my ride is here, and she points to the limo. Deku says, so that's what she means by space. Deku begins to change his training schedule, since now he has to train Uraraka and Momo. He decides once they get there, he'll put an illusion around himself and make multiple clones. That way, he'll basically send those clones off to go train on their own. After setting it up, he puts it in action. When it comes to Momo, he asks her about the 3 weapons that she knows how to make. After listing those off, he begins to train her in those. Now, when it came to training Uraraka, he basically trained her in palm strikes and in wrestling. When it came to her training around them, he focused on hand-to-hand combat, weaponry, and ninjutsu around them. When it came towards his clones training, they mostly just train in sealing and illusion, but mostly heavily focused on sealing. If you're wondering, he has been training them with his clones. After that being said, the 2 weeks are up, and the sports festival is just begun. While they're in their waiting room, Todoroki walks up to Aizuno and tells him, from a standpoint, I'm not sure which one's more powerful, me or you. But from the way that attack you use on the Nomu, and the way you described it in our classroom, it sounds like you'll not be able to use it on because it's too dangerous. That being said, I'm going to win. Before anyone can say anything else, Deku leaves the room, and he's listening to Naruto, which is telling him that I can feel the pain and anger from Todoroki, especially about his father. Deku tells him, notice. Deku tells him, good, so that means I'm going to save him.